Part 2 of Liberty Media Day. Sabrina Ionescu, Sami Whitcomb, so many more. I talk to them. Jackie Powell talks to them. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi there and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. Reminding you can follow our work at thenexthoops.com. The Next, we have 24/7 coverage. We're going to roll out team-by-team previews. 2 are out already, 10 more to come. You can do the math too, of every single WNBA team leading up to the tip this Friday. And of course, listen to our experts every single weekday at Locked On Women's Basketball. Follow us at Locked On WBB on Twitter and make sure you subscribe. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. So we're going to get right to it. Han Shu was in the building. Han Shu's translator was in the building. There were so many people talking New York Liberty basketball, and we have a lot of questions to get to and a lot of material to get to as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to my questions and Jackie Powell's questions right at Barclays Center. This is Locked On Women's Basketball.
To my right. So first, Betnijah, how is it going trying to get Beyonce in the building for a game?
I mean, y'all keep talking about it, we might get her here.
Okay. I was sort of joking with that one, but
She wasn't, though. Very serious.
Well, I mean, listen, we'd all love it. Who wouldn't love Beyonce in the building? Okay, anyway, on a more serious note, I'd asked some players, WNBA players who were at the Final Four, about how the W moves forward in the pop culture space, past maybe just being a league that's really known for being connected to social justice, which we love, of course. So I'm curious as to how you think the league continues to interact with other facets of the entertainment space.
You're asking how we can continue to interact?
Yes, and how that continues to grow. You can think about it.
Yeah, come back to me.
Yes. I'll move to Sabrina. What do you think this season represents for the New York Liberty?
I think it's an identity. That's what it represents to us. I think it's laying down the foundation of years of New York Liberty basketball, and I think we're going to establish that. I think we almost already have established that in training camp. And sometimes, especially with the new coaching staff and a lot of new pieces like that, can take years to kind of come forth. But I think for all of us, there's a sense of urgency. Like, we don't want to wait a couple years to get to a playoffs. Like, we know we have the talent to do that now, and so there's a sense of urgency of like, why not us? Why can't we get a new coaching staff and a new change and do that this year or do that the following year? And so I think the identity of this team is going to come out really soon. It's going to be something that's going to last for a really long time.
I appreciate that. And for Sami, a joking one to begin. How much do you really like Phil Collins and Phil Bailey? I'm going back to your podcast, that theme song. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Phil Collins. That's why I picked it.
Me too. Anyway, so what I'm curious about is you've worked with Sandy before, but now you're working with her, I think, rather than in like a spurt, it's going to be for a long period of time. I'm curious as to what are some of the things you've learned about her and working with her in more of a WNBA setting rather than in a Australian national team setting.
I mean, it's been the same, really. I think she's someone that brings the same intention and intensity to the goals that she does to this, and she has the same goals in terms of wherever she is. She wants her teams to be defensive-minded. She wants her teams to be tough. Culture is really important. And yeah, she's a very positive person, and she brings that out of everybody, but she also holds you accountable, and I've found that to be true in both spaces.
And before I go back to Betnijah, I'm curious as to what you learned from the scrimmage on, when was that? Tuesday, and what you look to improve, and if there's a player who you think is going to surprise us on opening day.
I think we learned just that there's a lot more to be done still, obviously, and there were things that I think, we did move the needle on, but there are things that we still need to continue to work on, and I think just be more intentional with if we want to, like Sabrina said, we do have an identity in mind, but making those changes don't happen overnight and doesn't even happen after, a couple of weeks of training camp. So I think those games are great, and they're great early on in camp because then you can see them and see where in training we really need to be more intentional with that stuff. I think, again, I probably won't surprise us, but I think the people that, didn't get to see her in camp last year maybe don't know what she's capable of. But I think Joss will maybe surprise some people. I think she already in this first scrimmage really showed what she's capable of, and she just is getting more and more comfortable out there and more, fitter and fitter. So I think she might be a surprise for some people.
Do you have any thoughts?
What was your question again?
Just how the W can continue to move forward when it comes to intersecting with the pop culture and entertainment space.
No, I think just like the visibility of it. I think that's a huge piece, and I think also there was a lot of buzz around the NCAA tournament, and there was a lot of viewership in that, and a lot of those players are not going to be in the league with a great following. And so I think at the end of the day, it's the viewership, and I think the want to see women on an equal playing field to men. And I think we see a lot of the NBA and a lot of other professional men's leagues. They wear the WNBA hoodie, they come to games, they support, and I think that's only going to continue to trickle down through pop culture and through other aspects of society.
Thank you.
Betnijah, Sabrina, Sami, good to see you all. I have a question for each of you, if I could. Sami, just to start, the Australian League, it seems, has an opportunity, given with prioritization, given with the fact that the schedule seemed to line up better than some of the other leagues, and obviously the basketball that's played over there is a very high quality. If you can just take me through how you think that can fit into the world women's basketball landscape, and the type of conversations you're having with people over there and over here as well about it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely so much room for growth with that over there, and I think it has, even in the last few years, more and more of the teams had, gone from one import to two. This year you saw, people like Brittany Sykes were over there, Tiffany Mitchell, like there was an additional, probably 5 WNBA players added to the league, and obviously that in itself makes it a really credible league and a tougher league to play in. But definitely you spoke to it, the length of the season, the fact that it does fit into, it doesn't start directly after WNBA, but then it also finishes, not significantly before, but with enough time to report to camp to even potentially have some time off in between. I think it makes it really appealing, and just moving forward with the new CBA, I think that's going to be a big decision that people have to make. Are they willing to give up, or potentially miss the start of camp and all of the complications that sort of offers. So I think you'll see more people that want to go over there, and it's also the quality of life there is fantastic. Australia is a great place to live. Obviously they speak English, so for some people going overseas can be a lot and they don't really want to all of the time, but this can maybe be a different opportunity where it's not quite as unfamiliar maybe as well.
I appreciate it, thank you. And Betnijah, from your experience, Sandy said something that I think is really interesting about how defense is non-negotiable. You played for Coach Stringer. You know firsthand what it is like when an entire team has defense be non-negotiable. How will we know? What will we see that indicates that that is the case for this Liberty team this year?
I think the coaches have been doing a good job of echoing that, and so we're starting to pick up on it, and before you know it, that'll look like us all being locked in. That'll look like great one-on-one defense. That'll look like, us finishing the defensive plays and just, making it really tough. That'll be us, punching first, us dictating what we want the other team to do. So I think that as we continue to work on that, those will be some of the things that you'll start to see.
I appreciate it. And Sabrina, for you, you said something that I thought was really interesting, talking about trying to balance when you need to pull back physically in order to preserve your body over the long term. I guess, for a competitor such as yourself, how hard is that? Is there a moment you've been able to identify early on where you're able to do it? And what's that process like in the moment that allows you to do it?
Yeah, it's been really hard because all I've done my entire career is just work, and so I think it's definitely been an adjustment, especially coming into camp. And now we don't have games really coming up, so these last 2 weeks have been a lot of practice and less games. So I think it's just kind of trying to understand the big picture, and I have a great team around me that's been helping me just figure out the balance. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways that you can work and improve your game without it, being on the court shooting shots, and whether that's in the weight room or figuring out different ways to do that, that's what I'm continuing to do.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Jackie.
Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including, and this is critical, WNBA lines. The league starts on Friday. There are too many other betting sites that simply don't give women's sports the equal treatment. Not how it works at BetOnline.net. It is your continued source for all sports wagering info, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts.
Each, because I know we gotta move. So Jocelyn, what do you think this season represents for the New York Liberty?
I'd say we've had a lot of conversations as a team about what we want for this season and the type of team we want to be. And I feel like we've made strides in the past couple of seasons. And this is, I feel like, a year where we can really turn the corner and become a good team and a great team. And so making that sustainable also. So I feel like that's what I'm looking forward to this season, is the type of team that will become the identity that will solidify, and so that when people say this is New York, there's certain descriptors that we'll hang our hats on and that no one will be able to question. So that's what I'm most looking forward to.
What are some of those, if I can follow up?
Well, you trying to steal us? I mean, I think we're still working on it. I would say a level of toughness and grittiness is something that we can expect from us. We're long and versatile and mobile, so we'll definitely be getting other people on both ends of the floor and looking to be more of the aggressor. Yeah, I'll stick with that one, and y'all will be able to tell me some others as we get down the road.
And quickly for you, AD, I just want to know how you think you've maybe grown defensively in this camp, especially with defense really being preached.
Right, I think team defense is huge for me, just being in the right spots, knowing when to have my teammates back, knowing when to help and not to overhelp. So that's been a learning process for me, but I'm excited for this journey. I take pride in it. I want to be at, when it's said and done, one of the best defenders to play, not just, scoring or passing, stuff like that. I want to be able to stop the ball and help my teammates out, so that's something that I take pride in, and I'm willing to grow and learn as well.
Hey hon, good to see you again. Yes, hello. Can you talk about a moment that has brought you joy here at training camp?
一起去工作，一起去打球，然后在这里每一秒都很开心。
First of all, she thinks she enjoys every moment to be here, and every moment brings her joy. And especially when she would come early to practice, to train with the staff beforewards and afterwards sometimes. And she thought it was going to be difficult to come back from quarantine to practice, but in reality, she actually thinks practice is fun now, and she enjoys like shooting before practice and training afterwards. Yeah, and she enjoys every moment during training camp.
I will start. Well, I have the same question for both of you. So, what's been talked about a lot today is just how this team's identity is going to be reliant upon defense. And so, I remember that was very much so a focus of last year as well. So, I'm curious from both of your perspectives, how does a team improve defensively? And what building blocks have you learned in training camp this year that you believe will specifically improve the group defensively?
Well, I think it starts with, we have a new coaching staff. We have, great leadership in Sandy and Olaf and Zach and Ron as well. And so I think that'll be really good for us, a good starting point. I think it takes buy-in. Defense is not, it's not really a skill, it's all effort. And so if we're bought in every single day in practice that nobody scores on us, or we make it hard for every single possession, that's going to translate into the game. And so I don't know if there's specific building blocks, just as much as it's just, work, effort, and buy-in from the complete team.
Just, to piggyback, and she basically said it all, but honestly, just to reiterate, buying in and just buying into her, what she believes on defense, because there's a lot of different schemes that we're learning at the beginning of this training camp. So just understanding when to use the schemes that she's offering to us, and when your teammate is saying it, just being able to do it. So just about trust and buying in, like Mick said.
And Dee Dee, for you, you just said that we should expect to see you at the point much more this season. I'm curious as to what may be differences and similarities you've noticed, because you didn't play the point a ton last year, but senior year, that was what you were doing.
Difference is the people you're going against. I mean, the WPA, I feel like everybody plays defense. Everybody wants to, check you up full court. And I had my fair share with Connecticut the other day, and with Jazz on me full court. So that's probably the biggest difference is who's guarding you. Similarities, like you said, I didn't play much last year, but I did a lot in college. And it's just, I'm very vocal and goofy out loud, off the court. But on the court, I'm more in my head thinking a little bit more. So I feel like that's a similarity. I'm constantly getting told, Dee Dee, you gotta talk, Dee Dee, you gotta call the play. So just being able to change and get better at that point, just being more vocal and a vocal leader on the court.
And the final one for me, I had asked some players at the Final Four this year sort of about how the W moves forward in the pop culture and entertainment space. So I'm curious as to how you believe you see the league continuing to grow to connect with those areas.
I think that's a great question. I think that a lot of our success comes from pop culture. You see women, in fashion and in music and whatever it may be. And even just the draft being such a great display of that, where we saw that there was a whole display of outfits and how they're doing that. And so I think that's such a great kind of marker for women's basketball and women's sports in general. It's like we're not just athletes. We have so many different elements behind us. I think that will help eventually grow the game, because people are not just focusing on what we do on the court, but also off of it as well.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Zoom really quickly, and we'll go to
there obviously was so much to take away from that Rookie of the Year campaign. I know that consistency from deep became an issue over the course of the second half. What can you tell me about the work you put in on that in the offseason, and if you have kind of a benchmark for where you want that three-point shot to be this year?
I would say, just to answer your second question, the benchmark would probably for me just kind of shooting for 35, 36% kind of thing. I know I finished in the lower 30s, so obviously whatever I can do to help my team is super important for me. And in that area, I've been able to really improve in that. And I was overseas in Spain, so wasn't able to, get as much work as far as that on that, but I was able to do personal stuff, on the side, not so much during practice, and so I think that was good for me, and I feel really good, in training camp so far with that part of my game. So I'm excited to see how that translates.
I appreciate it, and Dee, great to see you again.
Hi.
Your 3-and-D was essentially your calling card last year with the 3-point shot coming, perhaps faster, I think you said, than you had even thought it might. I wonder what the next step in your evolution as a player is, and what's a skill that we're going to see on opening night that perhaps we didn't see when the season ended last year.
To answer the second part of the question, I feel like a skill that you'll see now is what people keep saying is me as a backup point guard, or me handling the ball a little more. I think y'all should be expected to see that because I'm definitely up there a lot more than expected. And then, what was the first question?
What was the first
You forgot
to, I mean, that's kind of it, the evolution of it and what we expect to see. And
what I'm going to add to my game.
Yeah.
That's what you asked, right? Okay. Honestly, I have the same answer. Just being more comfortable with the ball in my hands and making better decisions with the ball in my hands.
Appreciate you both. Thank you. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Built Bar. I was driving home from covering a doubleheader. I was hungry. It's happened to me in the past. You settle your chips, pretzels, worse. Not on Saturday. Not for me. Built Bar. The Puffs. They got me through it. They got me through the doubleheader. They got me home. Healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both. The Puffs, by the way, covered in 100% real chocolate. I'm eating them. I'm thinking, oh, fake chocolate. Imagine how depressing that would be at this moment. Built Bar has banana cream pie puffs, even churro, and it's only 140 calories, 4 grams net carbs, 17 grams of protein. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Utilize these the way my mom told me to use them for when I get busy. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And as always, as ever, tell them Grandma Myrna sent you.
So we just spoke to Michaela and Dee Dee, and they talked about how, they've been answering your questions as, they were just rookies too. And so what I want to know from you is, what is this team like? How would you describe it and characterize it? And who are some of those people who have made you feel comfortable, and how have they done so?
So I would say that this team was really welcoming of me at the beginning. It was like I'm not a really outgoing person at first, so what they did is always approach me either in practice or in the training room or just in the locker room, always helping me. And I would say every single person in the team and also in the coaching staff made sure that I was comfortable enough and tried to always help me and always make me feel comfortable, make me feel welcome, like I was part of the team. And definitely that's the first word that comes into my mind, really welcoming and really willing to help you when you need to have help, to get help. So yeah.
Great. And also, I'm curious as to what type of role you expect to have for this team this year. I mean, I know Howard was talking about your passing ability.
So I feel like I need to develop a lot my game offensively, and I'm still try to be the best player as I can defensively. So I would definitely think that I'm more of an energetic type of player that will bring energy on the court in defense, and in offense throughout the season. I would like to and I would just improve my offensive game and just be around, help around, and being a good facilitator for my teammates and make sure that they have the best shot possible on the court. So definitely I think that will be my first role.
And has there been a coach that's really helped you along, that you've maybe built some chemistry with?
I would say definitely Olaf. Coach Olaf, he really helps me on the court a lot, and just explains to me how things work as a rookie. I appreciate his honesty. He's always honest with me, and that's one thing that as a player, sometimes you don't want to hear certain things, but you need to hear it, and he definitely helped me with that, and just every single day he just gives me a piece of advice that helps me grow.
Spoke about on draft night was your ability to pass, to be a secondary distributor. I'm just wondering where that comes from. Did you have a late growth spurt and you were playing more guard earlier, and how much have you been able to utilize that in training camp so far?
Thank you for the question. So I would say that I had to develop that skill a little more my last year in college. We had a few difficulties. We had people missing, people who had injuries, people that left. So I kind of had to be also a facilitator for my team. And pretty much that's how I learned. The people around me also made sure they were in the right place at the right time, and that really helped for me. And I don't know, I just wanted to improve that part of the game a lot, and I was glad that at least in my last year of college, even though whatever happened, with all the difficulties and everything, at least I got to improve that part of my game, which was something that I wanted to improve since the beginning. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. But there's something you ought to know. Men play basketball too. They do at every level. And in fact, there is even a men's professional league now too. It's called the NBA. So make your second listen Locked On NBA. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting, sorry, this must be a typo, all 30 teams? WNBA has 12. We gotta fix that. Well, anyway, 30 teams in the NBA, the professional league for men. So make sure you listen. Locked On NBA has you covered. So that's it for Locked On Women's Basketball today. Make sure you listen tomorrow. The great Alex Simon takes you through with Matthew Walter, talking all things Las Vegas Aces. I'm Howard Megdal, reminding you, follow us at The Next Hoops on Twitter. Go to thenexthoops.com and subscribe. Listen to us every day at Locked On Women's Basketball, at Locked On WBB on Twitter. The Next is just filled with people giving you amazing knowledge. Wishing you a wonderful day.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.